Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hue virtual chat. And why am I so cheery? Well, it happens to be like 3 degrees outside, sunny, and the snow is melting, and it is only March 2nd. So, my concern only is if March comes in like a lamb, will it leave like a lion? So, fingers crossed, no huge snowstorms come the end of March. We want to enjoy what we can of great weather while we're still in lockdown. But even though we are going to get some more news by the end of this week, and restrictions are loosening, the vaccine is being rolled out. And so things might be looking good for us this summer. But, anyways, talking about summer and summer love, endless love. Does that still exist? Well, we're going to be chatting about that. So let's open the doors to all of our lovely ladies that are going to be joining us today. And we're going to have a special guest too as well. Hi, Kirsten. Hey, hi, Susie. And I believe Joanna's joining us. I think.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. And there she is. Hi, Joanna. Welcome to the Hue virtual chat. You might be on mute. So you just unmute yourself. Charlotte, is Charlotte going to join us, Kirsten?
As far as I know.
Okay. Hopefully, because she'll like this one. So
yes.
Nice to meet you. So nice to meet you, Joanna. Oh, you're still on mute, I think.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can.
Yay.
Yay. Okay, so we're going to get things started right away with Joanna. And thank you so much for coming. She's got
Thank you.
Yes, very unique, I want to say. And we want to hear more about it. It's called Endless Roses because we all love flowers. But, roses are one of those things. Either they, we're so happy if they last for a week, but they only last for about 3 days. But anyways, let's, share your story about this Endless Roses.
Sure. So endless roses are beautiful preserved floral arrangements. So right now we're focusing mostly on roses because, like you said, it's the most finicky of the flowers. Is everybody loves it. It calls for every occasion, but they only last a week. So basically the preservation process kind of substitutes the water. So instead of growing them with water, they're grown with the preservation solution, which allows them to last between a year up to 3 years. And they don't require any water, they don't require any sunlight. And it is one of those processes that it can be done again with different types of flowers. So we has started venturing with sunflowers as well. And some of our arrangements include hydrangeas as well as moss. There's just no really end in sight of all the things that you can do. And yeah, it's the most important thing. They last for a really long time. And it's, they kind of preserve onto their color as well as their shape. So it's been very funny to see the people's expression saying like, oh, they're paper. And I'm like, no, they're 100% texture. You can bend the petals as a regular flower. Of course, we don't encourage that because you want. But yeah, they look so real because in fact they are. So, and pretty great.
So how did you find this process and decide that, okay, we're going to do this? It's wonderful.
So I was actually a couple years ago, I was on a holiday vacation with my family, and I bumped into a store that was carrying preserved roses. So they weren't arranged in any particular way. They were just kind of, here's a rose. It came with a stem. And I was like, this is magic that you speak of, because I myself have been a lover of roses since I could recall. Like I've had everything from roses made out of metal and paper and silk and all types. And once I bumped into that store, I started doing more research, and I found out it's quite new technology, mostly explored in Asia, and then it's slowly moving throughout Europe and as well as North America. And I personally hadn't encountered arrangements such as these in Winnipeg. And I was like, you know what, people need to see this. So I started making my own, and one that is very dear to me that luckily has gone very well in our kiosk has been our Endless Dome, which is kind of our inspiration on the Enchanted Rose by Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, wonderful. Well, they look so beautiful. And so you do have the kiosk at the outlet mall, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so how has business been going like through all of this kind of crazy pandemic and everything like that? Has it kind of been like, wow, this is the perfect gift to give somebody?
Yeah, so funny you mentioned it because we were unfortunate enough to last year we were wanting to be open for Mother's Day, and unfortunately I wasn't able to do so. But we were lucky enough this year that we opened right after lockdown on February 1st, and it's been a wild ride. The first 2 weeks, obviously, with Valentine's right around the corner, we have customers that are like, this is amazing. And I'm like, great. Okay. That's why we're here for you.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to do it all over again, getting closer to Mother's Day.
Mhm.
But no response from everybody. And I'm thrilled to see how happy they are with the product and as excited about the type of product, because that was another thing I wasn't quite sure how well it was going to do, like how well the arrangements were going to be presented. And it's beautiful to see like the little kids approach the kiosk and like it's like Belle's Rose, it's like Belle's Rose, like Beauty and the Beast. So but we're very glad to be lucky enough to have opened, and we hope to keep it up until Red Monday is when we'll be closing seasonally. So it's been great. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's so great to hear. Hello, Robin. This is like something, can you imagine a rose that will last for 3 years? It's true. And they're beautiful. I might get Josh just to show some more pictures again. They're incredible. And there, thank you, Joanna.
You're welcome.
Those are amazing.
So yeah,
Beautiful.
and they just like regular roses. You like I said, we don't really encourage this, but like they have texture. A lot of people have gotten them confused with dry flowers, which are very different from preserved roses, because unlike dry flowers, they don't brittle. So like they still hold their texture. Kind of move them around.
And you don't have to
They
water them. You don't have to
You
water
do
them.
not have to water them, and then you do not have to expose them to sunlight. So that no, as we like to joke around, no green thumb required. You don't do anything but to love them.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I was just laughing. I was wondering, hey, so with that uh, preservation stuff that you use on the flowers, like, can we use it on us too?
Oh, I wish I would like trust me. The second I know, I will embark in such. That was a whole other business, isn't
Oh,
it?
I know. Can you imagine? Ladies, we didn't have, yeah, no watering required, right?
No toxins, nothing. We're all good.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's hysterical. That's awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Joanna? Yep, Kirsten?
My head's going because I have a daughter who just got engaged. Have you crossed over into that wedding party bouquet end of things
And
yet? That's got to be a huge draw for lots of people where the bouquet doesn't end that day. It lasts,
mhm.
yeah.
That is where we're hoping to venture next. We are kind of trying things out as we tested the response. We're working on bouquets. We're working on centerpieces next because we definitely would like to join that venture for that very reason. Like as you mentioned, there everyone wants to keep their bouquet, and I personally. Would love to just have a gigantic centerpiece waiting in my living room every single day. But yeah, we are definitely looking into it, and we hope to be able to be part of it for the summer season because we've had to fast track a little bit. But yes, we are definitely in there next.
Very cool.
Yeah, Susie, did you want to ask anything? No?
I have to find my mute button first. No, I love the idea. I've heard of it. I'm sure I've seen it on Instagram. And yeah, I mean, I love that this type of option is sustainable and gives, especially in this day and age when you might not be able to enjoy fresh flowers all the time, it might be nice to have this version. So yeah, very cool.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So speaking of, like, I love the name Endless Roses. So it got me thinking about talking about endless love. So yeah, unfortunately, I was listening to some soundtrack or whatever, and that song came up, Endless Love, Lionel Richie and Diana Ross.
Yeah.
And then and Joanna was coming in about this, and oh, great timing, Linda. Endless love. What does that mean? I mean, you asked us, or, for some of us, the 90s and 80s, endless love was, that was the whole, or everlasting love. Does that still ring true? Robin?
Like, you're probably talking to the wrong person.
I don't think so.
I think, gosh, yeah, I'm not often stumped, right? I've had an interesting experience with love over my lifetime. I think there's people I'm no longer dating that I still adore and love, and I think I will love them forever. And I think it's a little crazy to think one person will be everything to us forever. I think for me, I think I can. I'm just trying to think of how to describe it. I really am a bit stuck. I think, like, I completely love someone right now and can see that I could love them forever. And I don't know what that looks like. I think it may morph over time into a whole range of things. I think people are a little more fluid these days about whether they're like staying with one person or not. I don't know. God, you got me on the spot there.
Yeah, because we're just usually talking about doom and gloom and everything like that. But no, and we're having more ladies join in. I love it. Hi, Jenny. Love to see you. Good to see you too. Linda, I think, is around. I mean, she kind of shifts on my screen. So we'll get her into the conversation. But Joanna here has a new product called Endless. Well, it's not a product. It's great. It's flowers. It's called Endless Roses. And there she is. Thank you, Joanna. You'll just be that model that brings them. Yes. I mean, I would love to send a bouquet to each and every one of you because they're spectacular. Like they're just so beautiful and the colors are amazing. But these roses last for 3 years. So the conversation is talking about endless love and what that means.
I personally, like, it's funny that you mentioned that because my parents are turning 42. Like, they're celebrating their 42nd anniversary on Wednesday, and they've been together for 48 years. Wow. So I feel, as Robin said, I don't quite believe it's just the one person, but like love has had, like, definitely has a broader meaning nowadays. So I feel it's more friendship than love. Like this, the base, Bridgerton has told us, but it is like the foundation of everything. And I feel that's what I feel it is. Like friends are love, and it kind of, romantic love has kind of been left behind a little bit. But that foundation of friendship and love, it grows and it grows, and that's how it becomes endless. So even if it shifts and changes, it's still, when you think about that person, you get that reaction or just that good feeling.
That good feeling. Oh, I know. Well, and I mean, everybody, well, Kirsten, Susie, Jenny, I guess I'm in that group too. I mean, we all have our significant others that and our marriages are very long too as well. Are we endlessly in love?
That's a really tough question during this pandemic, isn't it? Because it's like we're not supposed to be seeing each other this often. So, yeah, endless. I think endless has different connotations during a pandemic. Realize that, sometimes proximity and nearness, sometimes you just need some space and you need to breathe, right? So it's been interesting to, like you said, Tracy, to be living through this pandemic and to be, in a tight space with your family. And it's just like, wow, we're not meant to be together for this much time. And that's when running can really, save your life and your sanity when you get to go out and do stuff by yourself or even grow up and become fun. Yeah. But the thing about my husband and I talk about this all the time because we're always talking to the kids about like modeling good relationships and good emotional health and boundaries and all those things. And the thing about, falling in love and staying in love, falling in love is easy. It's the staying part that can be challenging, right? So it's really, I think, fundamental to understand. And one of my Facebook friends brought this up around Valentine's Day. She's a single lady. She loves being single. She's not interested in a partner because she's found that men just are not interested in her because she's too opinionated. She says she's too happy with herself, basically. Okay. And so I talked to her, we were messaging back and forth, and I said, you know what, we really need to raise women, especially, but kids, to understand that relationships and falling in love and all that stuff is great, but you'll never be happy in a relationship unless you're happy with yourself. It's the number one relationship that you have to be okay with and be good with before any kind of partner can come along. And Tracy, you can talk about this. And you've been with someone for so long, you grow, right? You're not the same person you were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So it's about growing together and giving each other the space to grow together and to discover new things and maybe to discover things that you don't want to do anymore, and that you want to try new things. And I think that it's that freedom to be yourself, whatever version of yourself that might be, that really is the foundation of sustaining love and relationships. And, whether that's platonic love or romantic love, whatever that means, love and the phases of love shift and change, and depending on what stage of life you're in. And it's all about maintaining that happiness and that contentment within, I think, and then bringing that to the outside world, into your outside relationships. That's my 2 cents.
And lots of silent applause. Thank you. So did you write that, Susie, or your husband? No, that's
I think I definitely talk more than he does, and he just kind of sits there and nods at me. But no, he and I both agree, and especially even for we have 2 boys and a girl, but I really want the boys to understand too that it's not your girlfriend's job or your partner's job to make you happy. You have to be happy. And it's about working together, and really that friendship at the basis of your love and the foundation of your love is so important, because as you've seen through this last year, that's the stuff that will carry you through, right? That's the caring part, the nurturing part, the icky day-to-day part that really, when you let somebody that you love see you at your most vulnerable and at your worst sometimes, that's the staying power of love, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no, it's that is light. Yes, no. Welcome, Rana. Well, maybe I'll go to. Oh no, that wouldn't be fair. No, you let this sit and simmer. So yeah. Well, I'm gonna go to Jenny though. I mean, for you too. Yeah, let's talk about the trials and tribulations of pandemic and being, a little bit too much time together.
You know what? I agree, Tracy, and I want to add to what Susie was saying in terms of, if you start off as being friends, which is what my husband and I did. We started off as being friends, and then we started dating, and then it just naturally progressed. And I know during the pandemic, we drive each other crazy. There's a meme with the actor. It's gonna drive me crazy, where it says, "I can hear you chewing from over here." Right. And so the little habits can drive each other crazy. But at the same time, he makes me laugh, I make him laugh, and we can share our time together. And so, yeah, there's times when, you know, we'll blow up at each other and I go to the basement or he does, but then we come together and then it's okay. But I also want to add something that what Susie said is very important. You have to love yourself first.
Mhm.
You know, what's wrong with buying flowers for yourself, or what's wrong with sending flowers to you, or, you know, and just for no reason at all, just because. Yeah, and there was an article in the Free Press this morning by Jen Zarati that talked about pandemic forces daters to choose shame or abstinence, right? So it talks about, you know, in Bridget Jones's Diary, the smug married, you know, the ones that, well, we're married, we're together, we're in our own little bubble, you know, haha, you have to struggle and date, and even pre-pandemic, you know, dating. I mean, I always said that, you know, if something, God forbid, should happen to my husband and I had to start dating, I wouldn't, because it's like, you know what, maybe I just want to date myself and be by myself. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
That's perfect. Perfect. Rana, you're single. Just throwing it out there, but
Let the world know.
yeah. So dating, I mean, have you just done, or is it just sort of maybe no?
No, I'm not done. I'm a lot pickier than I once was. I'm more cautious about people I let take my energy. I definitely don't prioritize, you know, anything but my family or myself or my niece. So, and that's not to say that I wouldn't if I felt different in a relationship, but I don't know. I'm just kind of like, we'll see how it goes. But you know, there's just people like, I feel like there's just a lot of expectation. You know what I mean? Like, I know that it's still one of the first questions anyone asks you. It's still, it's like this kind of, I don't know, you're kind of carrying this unfortunate burden, but it's not unfortunate. It sucks at times. But I also haven't had to deal with all the drama that comes with it either, right? Like, you know, it's kind of been, it's tough for the part that, you know, you're like, oh wow, like there's a part of my life that you want to be settled, and you know what I mean, like you want to be in that companionship type of role. But then there's also this other part where there's a lot of freedom. I mean, I really do and go and say and be wherever I want to do and go and be, and you know, so there's that part of it too. But I think that people just need to kind of look internally to see what really fits them, you know. And then also I just want to add on, you know, people, I think that the pandemic gave me like a lot of months to think about why I've been so so peculiar and so picky in what I viewed to be a bare minimum in a relationship. And I'm not saying that I haven't had less. I've made a lot of freaking mistakes, but I'm just saying it's because what I saw in my parents, right? Like my parents were the hold hands at 60 and, you know, match their clothes type of parents, right? Like they would always wear the same color shirts and hold hands on them. Like that's the type of parents I had, right? So for my world.
Oh my God, that's cute, Rana. Okay.
I used to go to Save Hotel, and they used to have like a little button with my face on it. Brown, just don't ask. So they used to go to Save Hotel Mall, and when my dad was still alive, and they were just still walking, and there'd be people who'd be like, listen, like we see your face on this old couple, like are they related to you? I'd be like, yeah, those my parents, I don't know what's wrong with them. But yeah, so I think just kind of going back 5 steps, I think it's also just what you view to be a priority in relationships, right? And then the last thing I'll say is like, nobody could be everything to anyone, basically. You know, I think if I've learned anything in life, it's just like, you know, nobody's perfect. What can you take out of people out of one person, and what can you get from somebody else? And not everything has to be romantic and sexual. I have great, amazing guy friends who I would jump in front of trains for. Like I love, like I deeply, deeply love, but at the same time, you know, not everyone can fill every role. So I don't know. That's my 5 cents on relationships, which I really know nothing about.
Now, Rana, have we ever talked about how my sister used to have a list? before when she was single. So she wrote a list, like she basically like a manifest list, okay, of all the traits and qualities that she wanted her future husband to have. Because she was saying the same thing. I'm too picky. I'm too this. And I'm like, no, you're not. I'm like, you're not too picky. You have the right to be so picky about the person that you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with. Like if we're going to be picky about anything, let's not make it hot dogs or burgers or pizza. Let's make it the person we're going to spend our life with, right? So she was like you, she'd kissed a lot of frogs and she was just like, you know what, I'm done. She's like, I don't want to date anymore. And this is before even online dating was really, huge, but I'm going to make this list, she said. So she had like 30 traits and qualities that she wanted this person to have. And she's like, do you think I should shorten it? Do you think I should take anything out? And I'm like, no. I'm like, do you really believe that you want this person to have all these things? And she said, yes. I said, then don't settle. I said, it's what you want. I said, the universe, will make it happen if it's meant to be. And I said, if nothing else, I said, you know exactly what you want. Do not deviate from what you've said, Long story short, she meets my future brother-in-law, and he had a couple of things that she would have normally, had she been on an online dating profile, scrolled past, okay? But because she met him in person and there was no pretense, there was no nothing, we're going, through this relationship together because that's what sisters do. And she says, I'm telling you, he checks off this entire list. And I'm just like, this is amazing. I'm like, you've manifested this amazing, lovely man. And like there's power to your words and there's power to your wish and your fulfillment and your, prayers to the universe, whatever that might be. So don't settle. You're not picky. You're amazing. Yeah.
I think I want to jump in too, because I was single for a long time and I made a list in 2014 and I kept compromising this list. And I'd be like, I'm not worthy. I should just have that person. And it wasn't till like the last year and a half that I went, actually, no, I am worthy. I'm worthy of what I really want. And I don't want to settle anymore. And so I was on dating websites last year and I was like, oh my God, what is wrong? Like, is it me? I was like, I'm done. I've had enough. I just don't need this shit anymore. And I was coming off all of them and some person sent me a message and I was like, I don't even know if I want to have a look. And I had a look and it was like, this person has everything I ever wanted. And we have this, and more. And we have this amazing, we don't have to see each other all the time. I'm bubbling with that person because, we made an agreement about that, which has been pretty cool. I see them once or twice a week. It's lovely. I have space to do what else I need to do. And it's not like, oh my God, we have to go everywhere together. Everything to everyone. And it's just the sweetest thing to find who you are and to be able to trust that you're worthy of this amazing person and not have to settle. And so my life is very joyous with this particular person in it. And it's because I started to love me and trust that I deserved what I really was looking for. So go for it, Rana. That amazing person will turn up when they turn up. And the other thing is, we're not in a conversation about we want to be together forever. We're in a conversation about we want to be together in this moment because it's all we have. That's it. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
that I really don't like is the people who say, well, once you work on yourself, you'll find that person. And it's just like, do you know how many freaks have boyfriends and girlfriends out there? Right? It's just the worst thing you can say to people because everybody who's paired up is not perfect. There's no magical solution they found. They just happen to find a lid for their pot. It's just, come on. Everybody is a work in progress. And to say that, you need to work harder on yourself, maybe you're perfect just the way you are in this moment. And you need to find someone who's perfect just the way they are in that moment for you. Yeah.
Or you find the crazy.
Together.
Well, I kind of believe it kind of goes hand in hand with what Rana was saying before. Like you do some inspection, so to speak, and go like, okay, these are the things that I want to accept into my life, and I don't. So afterward, I don't think it's so much as the self, work yourself. It's like, no, okay, I need to decide what I want to let into my life and what I don't. So that kind of, once you have a better idea, it's okay, this is what I'm willing to spend my time on and not. So.
I wanted to touch on, sorry, Tracy, I just wanted to touch on something that Robin had mentioned and also Rana had mentioned. So first of all, Robin, you talked about loving yourself first, which is very important. And then Rana, you talked about your parents doing things together, always being together. What I wanted to mention is that when you are in a relationship, whether it's a long-term relationship or, in the moment, as you say, you have to be careful that you're not giving all of yourself to that other person. And I just want to mention that my husband's, a family member of my husband's, his partner passed away, and they did everything together. And when she was gone, he was devastated. And he's like, basically, my life is over because everything I had was in that person. And it took him a long, long time to really kind of start coming out of his shell. And my husband and I were talking about this one day, and he said something. I said, "Oh, if I'm gone," I said, "you won't be as devastated." And he said, "Well, no, actually, I will be, but I have a network of really good friends and family that will help me get through it."
Mhm.
And so it's important that you don't make that the partner of yours everything and everything and all. You have to find that balance, that you have your interests, that you have your shared things together for sure, but that you have your own life, you have your own interests and friends and groups and everything, so that if something happens, you've got your network that you can rely on. And so I just wanted to share that it's so important that you make space for you first.
Yeah.
That's
And that
great
when
advice.
you come together, you're so much better for each other, right? Because you have these outside interests and outside, things that you're both passionate about, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring Linda. Nice to see you, Linda. You had a bit of a computer problem.
I don't know what was happening, but I'm here now.
Yes, yes. And I
I'm
love
here
the
now.
hair. Yes,
Thank you.
yes, I know.
Love it.
Yes.
Completely different. Loving it.
So yeah, and I'm just going to ask you. So
Yes.
because all of these things are so good. Now, is it because we've actually now, and we've always had a voice, but I'm just saying that, even through these talks, really, I have become more vocal or, thinking about myself. Thank you, Robin. But 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 I feel that, right? Like, the pandemic, yes, and everything like that has sort of brought people together. But I think women on a whole, though, have really had a good chance to kind of take a look at themselves too, as well.
Absolutely. And this is an interesting topic. I loved everyone's different points of view. I think I was kind of hearing when I was popping on, Joanna, you were talking about the importance of platonic friendships and also, loving yourself, loving the person you're with, looking for love. And I caught that this was about endless love. And I want to throw a different thought in there. For me, endless love right now is, and this is going to go a little dark, but it's communicating with the people that have passed.
Mm.
And I find that it is something that I didn't expect would be so important to my life, that the people who passed before me, my father, friends, that relationship, that love does not go anywhere, that we still have strong, beautiful relationships filled with love for people who are not here on this earth. And it's something that I am thinking about a lot. I have a friend who is nearing the end of her life and going through cancer treatments. And so thinking about friendship and the endless source of support and witnessing of our lives. When I think of love and endless love, I think of the people in our lives, like Susie, you were saying, like your sister, like you're going through that relationship with your sister. Those are the people who are witnessing our lives. And I think our significant others play that role so well, is that they're a witness to our growth. They're a witness to our struggles, our hopes, our dreams, our failures. They see it all. And that's a very special relationship to have with anyone, whether it's a friend, a sister, a brother, a partner, a parent. That's an incredible gift, no matter who it is in your life. And I remember, does anyone know the writer Isabel Allende? She, in one of her, I've written, I think, a couple of autobiographies. She said that the love of her life was her mother, that was the most significant relationship she had. And she is a very flamboyant past. She had lots of lovers and husbands, but her most significant love was for her mother. And that always reminded me, when we're talking about love, that there are so many forms that it can take that enrich our lives. So that's what I'm thinking about when I'm listening to everyone talk and share. There's so many different ways that love helps us, but I really do like to think of it as the people that we allow to witness us in our complete humanness. Those are the most amazing relationships.
Okay, so now we've talked about love. We've seen the beautiful roses. Okay, so I don't even know how to bring this up. And it is maybe a segue, spreading the love, because that's what we need to do more so than ever, getting out of maybe the romantic kind of love, but love for human beings. And nice kind of reference to Robin's new series on Hewitt Home. Let's get our human back on more so than ever. Susie, help me here, because I just saw it on social media, and maybe Jenny too, and Linda too. There was a document issued by the government yesterday, I just saw, on recognizing, or the facts have been out now, that the Indigenous and marginalized communities and the BIPOC communities have been, obviously slammed is not the right word, but the numbers indicate that they are much higher in those communities for COVID, for being exposed to, as opposed to the white community. And I saw this, and I just kind of read it very quickly, and then got into a conversation with my husband, and it was turned kind of like, well, and I just wanted to get the facts straight on what it was. And it sounded like, they just had released this information, that a lot of people thought that it should have been released a lot sooner than right now.
Yeah, I don't know about the timing of the release, but basically the information within said that BIPOC communities are at higher risk for COVID simply because of a lot of their living conditions. So they perhaps live in closer quarters and don't have as much space to isolate if someone is exhibiting symptoms in their home and things like that. And Rana, I'm sure, can speak to her friends in the Indigenous community who have definitely experienced that. And it's definitely challenging, especially when you have also multi-generational families living in homes, which is very traditional in a lot of those communities. So I think that they're looking at ways that I think they're looking back in terms of how they could have done a better job, but now looking forward, they're also going to be looking at ways of how they can communicate these findings and translate that into action that can help marginalized families and racialized people to help them understand what steps they need to take to keep them and their family safe. And they also, I believe, part of that findings was that they often work in lower paying jobs that don't offer paid sick time, or maybe work more than one job, which may, expose them in multiple areas of work. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of issues there for sure that that perhaps were not necessarily thought of at the beginning. Yeah.
No. Rana, you have your hand up.
The whole thing is just a joke. The conversation about the effect of COVID on marginalized and people of color, whether it's Indigenous or any person of color, has been worldwide. So you'll remember that I did a panel on the Feminist Forum a week ago. This is exactly what we were talking about, was the unequal effects of COVID on different groups of people, which essentially has shone a light on discrepancies and the inequality that we have been putting band-aids on for generations and generations and generations. And it has now become very evident during a crisis because you could no longer hide it. So yes, as Susie has said, it is absolutely not only housing is like one teeny tiny little piece of it. We're talking about people who are working in jobs in very precarious situations, whether they be nurses or predominantly women of color on the bottom end, and then their white management. That's, we call it, there's a name for that, right? Management's all on top, people at the ground, janitorial staff, teachers who are working, which is basically, and I don't know about this report, I didn't even bother reading it because it was just such a joke. But basically what we're talking about is the people who are coming in contact with COVID and how often they're coming in contact with COVID. So basically, if you really look at it and forget this report, which I couldn't even, at this point, I mean, this should have come out like a year ago when everybody else in the world was talking about it. I've been talking about this for 6 months now, that there is a unequal, effect of COVID on people. So basically, yeah, so it's not so much just COVID. I think that the truth of it is, if we really want to be real, it is the fact that COVID simply just shone a light on equalities that have always existed. And now we are seeing that very precarious situations are more, they're just more in homes that are of people of color. Like Susie said, whether it's multi-generational or not, but if you want to talk about First Nations, the first thing you tell people was wash your hands, social distancing, and wear a mask. 2 of those things are impossible in a First Nation. So the whole thing is just a joke. And I love how government and all these people come out and they have all these conversations to say, have all the conversations you want, right? In my world, have all the conversations you want. The fact of the matter is, if your recovery plan is not addressing these issues, you're a joke. You're a country that is a joke, whether it's Canada, the States, Switzerland, New Zealand, who cares? You are a joke because you just take information and you pretend, and nobody needs lip service right now. Like I said last time, when you're in a moment of crises, there's opportune moments right now to change how things go in the future. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible moment, right? And then for people like me who are always on the front lines, kind of seeing the people, how this is happening, and then watching the information come out, it's enraging to say the least, because it's like, yeah, like you tweeted it out 5 times and everyone's talking about it, but this conversation is not new. Sorry. This is not a new conversation. There's healthcare workers who have been bitching about this for months. So, and then I think for Manitoba, they specifically talked about the Filipino community.
Yeah.
And that has to do with healthcare. And there's other factors as well. People coming to Canada and not having their degrees recognized as quality degrees. So then they're always working lower jobs as immigrants, right? So there's a whole host of things about it. So it's not just a one-off. If you want to talk to me about the report, it's probably just a joke. I think that there's much more effective research-based reports across the world that are literally saying the exact same thing. So my 2 cents.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. But yeah, I found it kind of like same like you, Ron. I was just like, well, I mean, and you know what? It does language does play a very important part in this. If we think this is almost a year ago now that this whole thing started. If in multiple languages, if that there was, that kind of even, I don't know, communication. I don't know if that would help, but I'm pretty sure moving forward, those are some of the big things that they're going to have to look at changing. But my fear is
You're talking about systemic issues. These are deeply systemic issues. A language change would, yes, be a very topical issue, but we're talking about why are people of color always at the bottom rung of every job opportunity that they get, that they always seem to be on the front lines when disaster strikes. What we're talking about is systemic issues. This is not a language change or something else. And I apologize for being so blunt about it, but I think that there's a lot of, everyone kind of humming and hawing over the conversations. We need factual statements here. These are systemic issues. Why is a doctor from the Philippines not able to come to Canada with the qualifications and be a doctor rather than a nurse who's now getting paid as an RN rather than there's a whole system is set up for failure for those people. Sorry. Thank you.
and I guess well, obviously it's not going to change overnight, but I mean, it's got to start somewhere. I mean, these conversations, if anything, are getting people to voice their opinions and to be strong. So let's hope. But thank you, Rana and Susie, for clarifying it. My fears again, it just this whole racism thing will air its ugly head. I know, just over this, and I just hope that people just use their common sense and respectability and empathy and acceptance without understanding and all of those things and words that we all commonly use in our group. And Joanna, yeah, we always talk about issues like this, and maybe endless roses.
I'm all for it. Like that, I like that. I personally like most enthralled in listening than anything else. And when I was listening to Rana speak, not only she speak very eloquently, but it was, there were things, I personally come from Argentina, so there were certain things that she was saying that was really getting to me as well. And as she mentioned, I am just as surprised, I think, as everyone else with the numbers and the communication that we've all known for about a year now. And so it was a bit, okay, this isn't news. We've known this. I'm a bit confused as to, the release of information and the timing of it. So, but yeah, I'm hoping as well that I hope, people take it in and it becomes a call for action and not just, more of
more of the same. I'm hoping to. And we are heading into the city as having this big, huge anti-racism week at the end of the month. So it'll be really interesting to learn more and to hear more on some of the actions. I think that's a big proponent for that week, is to get some written actions and enforce them. But yeah, so
I wanted to I liked how you put that, Joanna, about the call to action, and Tracy, you're saying that as well, and Reina. And it often when we have these conversations, we put it to the other people to change. We have a way of distancing ourselves and saying the government needs to act, organizations need to act, people need to act. Right here, right now, the only person that needs to act is you. Like, that's the only change that we can literally take responsibility for, is ourselves and how we approach Indigenous culture, how we approach racism, how we step up and take responsibility for our role within this system. Because to distance ourselves and say it's, somebody else needs to fix this is the problem. We are all a part of the problem. Therefore, we can all be part of the solution. We can take action steps. We can show up more for events. We can show up. I know there was an event on the weekend for Black women in business. White women can show up for those events and support them in business. We often, I see this, I've seen this over the past year, when there's events about, you know, Black women, Indigenous women, or people of color, we kind of go, okay, that's not me. Some of us, well, that's not really me. And it's time to show up, and it's time to have uncomfortable conversations and to get worked up, like Raina, like get worked up. Absolutely. This is important stuff. This is life and death stuff. And it's time to, you know, take risks on social media. You know, show your politics, show your beliefs, show your values. Yes, you might piss some people off. You know what? Time to learn how to deal with people being angry with you. Let them be mad. You know, let people see who you are and what you value and what you believe in and what you stand for, and take a stand. And that's going to empower you. It's going to empower the people in your family. It's going to have a ripple effect on our community. And it's something that, yeah, we can take responsibility for right here, right now, and say, what can I do? What steps can I take? What actions can I take to make some change in our world? So,
Wow. Anybody want to add to that?
I wanted to add that, oh, sorry, it's words matter too. It's the words that we use. And I know that I think a couple of weeks ago, there was a country star who used the N-word, and there was swift backlash against it, whereas before it might have been, oh, you know, he didn't mean it, or some ways of excusing it. But now it's out there. Anything that you say is there's reaction from people, and it's about time that people said that's not acceptable. You can't. There are better ways, better words to use, or just, we're all humans. We're not one thing or another, you know, and we're more than what people see. And so it's really important that when we think about the actions that we take, which is very important, is what Linda was saying, it's the words that we use, and the words really matter.
Well, and
I
words
would
can
say
hurt.
sorry, I would say, Tracy, on that note, it will be like, the word that comes to mind is accountability. And that's something that's been, I know it's been discussed in the last couple of weeks with, you know, cancel culture. And it was like, no, it's just accountability. We don't have room for that type of talk. We don't have room for that type of attitude anymore. It's just not.
And can I just jump in? And I think, you know, and again, I think we have to be like, everyone needs to be okay with who they are, number one. And I think that because I know that sometimes, and I'm always like, I'm at 43. I just don't care. I have nothing to lose. Like, I'm about facts. I'm about figures. I'm about pushing to make change. I have nieces. I just don't care at this point. I'm not trying to impress anyone by anything. I just want the truth, right? But the one thing is, like, sometimes I'll get like messages after, and then in my head I'm just like, you know, you're sending me a message because you're offended by something that I said, and I'm openly telling you that I actually don't care that I offended you, because you are not in a position to be offended. Like, I don't care if you were offended, or because sometimes, like, I'm super blunt about racial issues, right? Like, I will openly say, and I'll openly say that, you know, there's like, white women, white men have responsibilities in this battle to become one. Like, let's just all come under the same circle, like under the same arms, and try to push the same issues together, right? Because that's the only way this is going to happen, right? This is the only way that these changes are going to happen, is if we all have those really open conversations. But people get super offended by that, right? Like, people get super offended. And for me, like, I take that offense as almost, you know, of people just wanting to say the words that make them look good publicly, but actually still really want the status quo. And I think that there's a big distinguishment there. And I think that that's where, when we're talking about what the action is, like what the call to action is, right? And I think that that call, you know, Linda, you said it, and Joanna, you said it too, right? Like that call to action is really, like I've said, for COVID specific and about that report specific, is about recovery. What does COVID recovery look like? Because in those moments, there's going to be governments, policymakers, people across the country asking for input. They're going to be asking for input. They're going to say, okay, how can we do better next time? And then that's all of our job, to jump in those conversations and say, well, let's try to make what happened this time not happen again. You know, so we will have those opportunities as time comes up, right? And I know this isn't always political, but it becomes political. Like, let's make this a political issue. You know, let's make Canada's recovery from COVID intersectional, make it a feminist approach, maybe make it, you know, not anti-Indigenous, not anti-Black lives, not anti-whatever. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that we can say and do in that process. So just to speak to the call to action part, I believe, that's just my opinion, who knows if it's true, I believe that when it's the recovery, when we start to pivot into a recovery mode, and it will be probably when people start talking about federal elections, that's where we need to start voicing our, you know, let's be loud about this, you know. And if we can do that during that time, I can guarantee you we can break a lot of those systemic issues, truthfully. Because they're going to, like, they're not going to just listen to one group of people. When you have all of us together, it's a very powerful statement. It means you, as my friend, are not willing to accept my oppression, and I, as your friend, will stand by you and walk the same line and be like, we're all in this together. That's really what we're looking for.
And I vote Rana for president? No.
Never.
Mayor? Premier? Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so now we know when that time comes, we can all write down our thoughts and everything like that. I'm going to actually just going to throw it to Robin, just because I always like to put in. Don't look so exasperated at me, please.
I think it's super hard to follow.
Well, I know
people that have talked now. What would you like me to, what do you want to know?
Well, because, you know, I always put it and tie it around with mental health. And not only are we thinking about, you know, the what am I trying to say? Because I'm just hard time. We're not only thinking about, you know, the people that are struggling. It's also that this is something that we're all in. Mental health, the whole bubble of mental health. It doesn't matter. Every single one of us is in it. And I think that is another thing that needs to be addressed too, as well, right?
Look, I think everything in life has an impact on our mental health. I don't think there's one piece of life that isn't interrelated to, like, our mental health and how we feel. And so I think, I mean, I put in the chat that we've got to be for everything we do. Nothing about us without us. It's not about making a policy without the communities involved, without people, without allies, without, like, being in there. And so it's frustrating that we keep not listening to people. We keep, as a collective. I mean, I do it too at times. I think we all do. We're not perfect. So it is that place about how do we actually, like, truly hear what people want and make a difference in that. That will be when the changes happen to be to mental health, when we stop trying to tell everyone else what it should look like and actually listen to people about what's important to them, and the changes that they think will make a difference for them will be the time that, like, mental health for all occurs. And that's, like, I don't think that's going to happen overnight. And as Linda said, we can do our bit, and we can stand, as Rana said, we can stand with others as a collective to try and do that systemic advocacy piece. And we just have to keep hanging in there, because I think that's the piece. I think sometimes we get exasperated and we're like, oh, it's too hard. And it's too hard not to do it. It's too hard on every single person in the world if we don't stand up and be accountable, stand up for our stuff, stand up with people in our lives, and go as a collective. So there's my little 2 cents worth at the end of the day.
Oh, yay. Well, and Kirsten, you've just been like sitting lovely there in my top box. I know.
Oh, the conversation today was so good on so many levels. And Robin's right. It's so hard to go after, all of what has been said, and everyone's added such great things to this conversation. The only thing I wanted to add is taking it back to mental health. As Robin said, mental health is connected to absolutely everything in our worlds. Everything we do, every facet of our life, mental health is connected. And I've had a couple of conversations with parents lately, and I've talked about how physical health is on a spectrum and mental health as well, and that we need to nurture it. And, it slides all the time, it's fluid. And I'm surprised at how many parents responded with, wow, I'm really glad you explained that to me. I never knew that. And it just is. And so, yeah, like everything that's going on in the world, especially now with COVID and the oppression of so many different cultures, and what's happening, how COVID's affecting their communities. And Rana, you spoke so well, and Linda as well. I took some notes, but I can't go over it all. But I'm just sitting back and really enjoying the conversation. Yeah, so I'm good. I'm good over here.
Well, and so Rana had mentioned it too, and that's what kind of twigged me too. I'm going to go to Susie because the Filipino community was mentioned in this report, which, I was just like, whoa, because normally, well, and I'm going to say it because I'm Japanese. We all kind of get lumped into the Asian kind of box. And so, but I do recognize though that the Filipino community is so important in our healthcare because, they work so hard and they're in our homes, they're in our hospitals, they're everywhere. I guess from that community point of view, how do they feel? Or again, is this just lip service and they keep on working?
Well, I think, there was a study that came out last fall, I want to say towards the end of the year, that talked about how much money Filipinos sent home last year from working. And it's just like, that's what they do. They work hard because they're not just supporting family here, they're supporting family back home. So I think that, and I can't speak for the entire Filipino community, obviously. I can only speak from my experience and from what I know, but it's incumbent that these workers, these healthcare workers, feel protected when they're at work. And we have seen conversations and stories happen where they're not necessarily feeling that. And then as well, having the protocols, communicated in an appropriate fashion to these healthcare workers about what they need to know to keep themselves and their families safe. And I think that, there can be a language barrier, not just with the Filipino community, but with any, other community that lives in our city. And it's incumbent upon us to understand that communication and literacy is not just an English and a written or verbal thing. There was a sign, a couple of signs that the mayor's office had put out late last fall, talking about how they wanted to use different languages to convey, these fundamentals, as Dr. Rusin would say, to the community at large. And the hateful comments that were on that post were just off the charts, right? So I think we really need to look at, our leadership taking a leadership role here and moving communication forward and doing what's good for the community, not listening to, racist and bigotry and rhetoric, because that communication, whether it's, visual or written or oral or whatever that might mean, can save lives.
Mm-hmm. No, so true. No, so well said. Wow. Well, we'll see what happens. who can say we can't, but I really enjoy, this conversation. It certainly helps me kind of, have a little bit of a clearer path on where to go. And I have to say too, in all honesty, it really is hard to voice your opinion. And especially I don't have the and I'm just going to say it, Rana, the guts like Rana. And I mean, Susie, to so eloquently sometimes put my personal thoughts out, but it does give me clarity and confidence now to, when I'm in a conversation, I can speak how I feel. And I think that's the main point. It's not to promote or on social media, but if I'm in a conversation like I am in here, I feel safe enough to say what I want to say, and not feel that I'd be judged or ridiculed, or then, spun around and taken out of context that I said this. So having said that, please don't quote me on anything. No.
You
But
can call me on anything you want.
no, yeah. Oh, Rana, yeah.
Anything you want.
This
Over and
session
over
is
Let's just say we
recorded.
all have each other's backs here. Okay. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
This session is recorded. We're going to play it across the world, Tracy, across the world.
I know.
I think the only time you should ever be, and I've learned this in politics, I think the only time you should ever be nervous or uncertain about words you're going to say, if they're racist, homophobic, or sexist, or if they're not factual. And I don't think anything I've ever said was not factual. So
there you go.
It's the facts, and that's
The facts of life.
the problem.
Oh my goodness. Well, I want to, you know what, Joanna, thank you so much for joining us. And now you are like a Hue virtual chat person. You got the Zoom link. Come in every Tuesday at 11:30.
Thank
you
you
got
so much for having me. Yeah, I've learned a lot from you ladies, and it was a pleasure to meeting and hearing all of you as well.
Yeah, no, and I don't know, I can't see Jenny or Linda, so they might have had to run off, but you know what? Hopefully we'll see Charlotte next week. Yes, Robin, as always. Oh, and you know what? We need to get back Cynthia. We need a update with Cynthia. So maybe Robin, you can get a hold of Cynthia next Tuesday. Yes. Oh, so anyways, thank you so much. Endless Roses at the Outlet Mall. Go visit Johanna. Yes, look at those beautiful. I think those would brighten up any day. We've got to get through March. Let's finger March goes out like a lamb. It came in like a lamb. Let's hope it goes out like a lamb and not a lion. So anyway, so have a very great Tuesday. Enjoy the weather, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, Tracy.
Happy Tuesday. Bye.